Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 14.6 Beta 1. This was a surprise to all of us since we still have 14.5 release candidate, but now this is the first beta of iOS 14.6. And this came in at a very large 4.56 gigabytes. That's on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. I also have that installed on the iPhone XR and the iPhone 7. It was just under 4 gigabytes on the iPhone 7 and a little over on the iPhone XR. Along with this, Apple also released iPadOS 14.6 Beta 1, so I have that on the iPad as well, and they released macOS Big Sur 11.4 Beta 1 yesterday, watchOS 7.5 Beta 1 today, along with tvOS 14.6 Beta 1 as well. So all of those betas came out today, and we still have 14.5 we're waiting for as well. So I think this might be one of the first times or only times we've seen three different things going at the same time. We have a public version of 14.4.2, a release candidate of 14.5, and this new beta. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then we'll go back, go to General, then go to About. The build number is 18F5046F. And this particular build, like I said, was a bit of a surprise and does have some changes in it that we can see. Now, the first thing is it has a modem update. So if you're on an iPhone 12 Pro Max, maybe you were having issues, you should have a modem update, and that carries across to older devices as well. So you should be seeing a modem update there for the modem firmware, as well as this new feature in Settings. So if we go into Settings, we'll go into Settings, you go to General, then you go to Software Update. Well, if you're on a phone that's a little bit older or maybe has a previous version on it, you'll see here's my other iPhone 12 Pro Max that's on iOS 14.5 release candidate. This showed up automatically. Apple sort of dynamically pushed this, and now when you go to Software Update, it gives you an option for the new beta at the bottom if you have the beta profile installed. Now, Apple's given us this option. All you have to do is tap on it and you can install it, or you don't have to. So you can go to Automatic Updates, Download Only, don't download it at all, and you have that option now. So that's under Software Updates, and this will be really nice in the future because you'll be able to jump right to a release candidate. And then also Apple says you can choose to update to the next available beta or uninstall the profile to remove your device from the beta program. So that should be much, much better. And it should be a little bit easier to get out of the beta program. Maybe they're making it easier to get off of maybe a different beta without using a Mac in the future. And based on some information in the code, for example, someone tweeted on Twitter that iOS 14.6 seems to introduce a new method of macOS communication when you're in recovery mode and you're booting up. So there is a potential that this particular update has something different there, although they're not making it very obvious that you can see anyway. Also, thanks to my friend Steve Mosier for helping me out with some of these, there are the possibility of exposure notifications showing maybe a diagnosis link. So maybe you put in a diagnosis and exposure notifications, and you might have the ability to send a link, for example, with diagnosis. It's not clear what that is. It's just possibly in the code. Also, there's something new for home, although again, you can't see it, but you may be able to actually listen to an intercom. So here you can talk through the intercom. Maybe you'll be able to listen as well, although I don't know if there's regular microphones. Maybe they'll enable that later on with a HomePod update, for example. So I'm not seeing that yet. But also they added the update in the Apple Wallet for Apple Card family. Again, you can't see this. It's just in the code. And then finally, one thing they've updated that they talked about already that we're still not seeing on anything is the option for subscriptions in podcasts. If you're using the Apple Podcast app, it's going to have subscriptions soon. That's why we have our little account in the upper right. And maybe you'll be able to subscribe to your favorite podcast. So you can go into your podcast, subscribe to that podcast, a different show, support that creator, and maybe be able to skip some of the ads in there because you're supporting them. So that looks like it's coming up very soon, but it's still in the code and we're waiting to see it. Now, the only other thing is some people are seeing the folders be rearranged and they're seeing a new enterprise apps folder. So if you have enterprise related apps installed, you may see that as well. Thanks to Braden for sending this along, but it just is an enterprise apps. That wasn't there before as far as I can tell. Now, as far as any resolved issues, Apple has not mentioned a single thing in their notes as far as what's been fixed in this particular update. That does not mean they haven't fixed anything or they aren't working on anything, but most of the major issues such as green tint, those sorts of things are mostly resolved in iOS 14.5, but it doesn't mean they haven't stopped or have stopped working on them for this update. So hopefully you're seeing a lack of green tint when you're in dark mode, in dark situations. Hopefully you're not seeing that. Also, people continue to ask me about yellow tint. I personally don't see this as an issue because it's generally the phone being a little bit more color accurate. When you color balance a display, it looks a little bit warm or a little bit yellowish if you've ever color balanced a display. If you compare it next to the iPhone XR, for example, both of these have True Tone turned off. They both look very different because they're different types of displays, but the iPhone 12 Pro Max was touted as having a the most color accurate display. So that may not be great for everyone. I do wish they'd add some options to maybe change that a little bit if they could do that in the future. Now, anything else? There is nothing else, like I said, as far as any issues they've fixed that they've mentioned. Bluetooth does seem to be fixed on 14.5 with AirPods switching, for example. Hopefully it doesn't mess back up with 14.6, but we'll have to wait and see. It's been good for me on 14.5. 14.6 hopefully has even better Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity and no issues there. And for some reason, well, this is a different iPhone, so maybe that's why it's not paired, but in general, it should work much better. So I'll have to try that out later. This is probably paired to my other iPhone 12 Pro Max since I was using that with these. So I do have that issue occasionally where I have to repair them though. So hopefully that's not an iOS 14.6 bug. Now, as far as iPadOS 14.6 Beta 1, the same changes carry over, although because this is on 14.6, we won't have the little bar there in software update, but the same sorts of changes carry over to this iPad. And in general, I wouldn't expect anything different right away. I would expect bigger changes maybe with Beta 2 or Beta 3, for example. Performance seems to be okay on this iPad, given its age. It's one of the older supported iPads, and performance on the iPhone, for example, seems to be okay as well. I waited to open music for the first time, so let's see. That was nice and fast. Scrolling seems very fast, especially since it's still loading background activity. And it actually seems pretty good. This is on an iPhone 7. So in general, it should be pretty good based on what I'm seeing here, although it will take a few days to know that for sure. On the iPhone XR, the same thing. Just using this a little bit, scrolling is nice and fast. Everything is smooth. Now, as far as the overall benchmarks, let's go ahead and take a look at that. I ran that on all of these devices. So let's go over to Geekbench. And on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it scored 1,590 for single core, 4,061 for multi-core. I don't think I've ever run it on this device, but hopefully these carried over. But let's take a look here. And you can see April 22nd, and the last time was March 26th. So it scored significantly better on this device. So it's doing a little bit better, but these could have carried over from something else. Let's take a look here. And that was on an iPhone 11 Pro Max. So these are the scores for this device, and they're kind of combining with others. But let me show you all the different ones so you can get an idea if your device is about the same. Now, from left to right, I have the iPad Air 2, followed by the iPhone 7, then the iPhone XR, and then the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And like I said, this should just give you a general idea. These scores generally will improve over the next few days as it finishes processing in the background. Usually later in the day, it will be much better than it is now. Now, as far as the overall battery life, well, we just got this update, so it's going to take a few days to know that for sure. But if we go into the battery, this shouldn't affect battery health. They've not added the battery health recalibration to any other devices in this update, as far as I can tell. And you'll see I'm at 100% on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. This one has just been updated and had to reset. So hopefully it'll be good, but we'll have to wait a few days. It is an early beta. I would think that it'll be as good as 14.5, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Now, should you install iOS 14.6 Beta 1? Well, if you know what you're getting into with betas, then you absolutely could. However, with iOS 14.5 release candidate coming very soon, I would probably tend to hold off on your main device. If you have a separate device that you want to try it out on, maybe a little bit older, then definitely go ahead and try it out. But there's nothing spectacular worth trying this for so far with this update. Now, as far as when to expect iOS 14.5's release to the public, well, according to Apple, it's coming out very soon. In fact, on their website, they said it was coming out next week. So we can expect it early next week, it looks like, from Apple to release iOS 14.5 to the public finally. That brings a ton of features, and of course, I'll have a video covering that as well. So this was a little bit unexpected. I'm glad they released released it, but I also think this update will come out around the same sort of time as the new iMacs, the second half of May. And the reason I say that, macOS 11.4 Beta 1 adds support for those new iMacs, and it needs to come out by the second half of May when Apple releases that device to the public, along with the iPads and the Apple TV. So I would expect all of these updates to come out sometime late next month based off that. They could put in an interim update, but based off what we're seeing so far in that code, that seems to make the most sense. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, as far as anything else, if I find that, of course, I'll do a follow-up video with more features in it, and I'll do a follow-up of iOS 14.5 release candidate on Sunday as well, like I normally do, and we'll see how it's going for everyone that's installed that. If you've found anything else, though, let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.